I want to be able to walk into a room and look like I look and have people go, damn, I need to start working out. The mindset includes me not giving a shit about what anybody else thinks that I'm doing, because I'm not there for them.
That's right.
I'm there for me. Neither one of us look like a freak. We just look like fit humans who've decided to take care of ourselves.
Dude, are you on steroids? Are you still holding on to what you used to look like in college? Six-pack abs, impressive bench press, and eat whatever you want? What if there was a way to be a 62-year-old bodybuilder in better shape today than you were 30 years ago? Today's guest has been on over 140 bodybuilding and fitness magazine covers and was the subject of the largest fitness campaign in history. He hosted a fitness show on Fox for over 100 million viewers, and he's the CEO of Clark Bartram Systems, where they have everything, all the products that you need to get fit and stay fit. That's the key. And yes, he is now 62 years old in the best shape of his life. Welcome, Clark Bartram, to the Full Potential Formula podcast. I'm your host, David Brownlee. Ladies and gentlemen, Clark Bartram.
Brother, I'm excited to be here. What a beautiful studio you have, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
It makes podcasting fun when you come to a place that's actually set up for it and you know somebody put some effort into it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. My pleasure. So today we've got a lot of things that we can talk about. There's a lot of things that are in the news, a lot of things online. And you and I, we're not spring chickens, right? I'm 54. I'm going to be 55. And I've got some small kids. We'll talk about that. And so that's my driving force for fitness. And for you, you look great. Can we say how old you are?
Absolutely. 62.
62, looking like you, man.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Hey.
So,
white don't crack either.
Black don't crack. White don't crack. What rhymes with white? White stays light.
Yeah,
there you go. So this is pretty cool. But there's a question. You've got this great physique. You've got over 360,000 followers on Instagram. Your shirt's off in half of those posts, right? And dude, are you on steroids?
No. Let's talk about that for a second. So you and I talked about this off of camera a little bit. Some days I take that as a compliment. Some days I take that as a troll. Somebody just saying there's no way. And the thing that bothers me the most, I've been thinking about this for a second, is when guys say this: I've been in the gym 40 years and I know for sure that there's no way you can look like you do without taking steroids. First of all, you've lowered the bar. Second, you've showed your ignorance. Third, you know literally nothing about me. And if you knew my story and you took 5 minutes to learn what my story was, you would, if you had any integrity, if you were any kind of man, you would say, my bad, bro, my bad. But then on the other hand, I understand why people ask, because guys like you and I are an anomaly. We're outliers, we're unicorns, if you will, where at 54 years old, you're not supposed to look like this according to the standards that have been set in this great country of ours. But it's unfortunate that, like I said a minute ago, we've lowered the bar of what's expected of a man and how you should look. So the average guy doesn't look like you. So then the question is, what's he doing? There's no way. It's impossible. But if you and I tell the truth, my expectation is, oh, my bad, bro. It was, I was just curious. Fine, be curious, but don't tell me I'm a liar. That shit pisses me off.
Absolutely.
Am I allowed to say shit on the Full Potential Formula podcast?
Shit, man, I don't know. Our guy can bleep it, right? Steve can bleep that out, right? Like put the little bleep in there. Yeah, it's so true. Like when I was young, I'd get up, I'd go to the gym and put in the effort. And people would say, oh, man, you must be on steroids. Yeah, you're on steroids, bro. And it would piss me off because, or you've got good genetics. That's it. Now I can say, yes, I have good genetics. You and I could probably both agree. We both have great genetics, right? But there's also a level of work and dedication and discipline that goes into health and fitness, right? To get the result we're after. So it used to piss me off. And then as you kind of get older, you get like me, I get in my head or whatever. And getting older, I'm like, whatever. And then somebody goes, dude, you on roids, man? You on gear? I'm like, no, I'm not, but thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Right. But I think you're right. It all depends on how somebody's asking you. Is it online? Is it somebody trolling? Like it's impossible. I know for sure you're on steroids or something like that. That's not going to make anybody feel good.
No.
It's not true.
And here's the reality. Neither one of us look like a freak. We just look like fit humans who've decided to take care of ourselves. Right. And that goes back to the whole genetic thing. So if you take Clark Bartram version A and Clark Bartram version B, or David Brownlee version A and version B, you were born with a set of genetic potential, predisposition to look the way you do. And you chose a path in life that was athletic, and you lifted weights, and you ate right, and you did all of this, so you ended up in this body without drugs. But you take the version B of either one of us. In my case, I grew up in Canton, Ohio, where the steel mill is where everybody goes to work. So after I left a vocational high school, if I would have went the blue collar route, which I totally respect and admire and appreciate, but it wasn't for me. If I would have went to work at Timken Roller Bearing or Republic Steel, 12 hours a day and 1,200 degrees, and came home and ate just whatever was there and had a couple beers and sat down, rested, and went to work the next day, my body wouldn't look the way it looks. So it's 20% genetic predisposition in my estimation, and about 80% lifestyle choices.
100%. I agree with that 100%. It's so funny when you think about lifestyle, right? Especially if you're working all day, you've got pressure, maybe you got kids and you've got a relationship, the different things you can focus on. And when you get home and you're just no energy, right? Or you think you're getting energy about 3:00, so you have an energy drink, or some caffeine or something where you're going to crash. So by the time you walk through the door, you've got nothing left in the tank. Netflix is very easy to do. Yeah. you turn on the thing, you sit there, and you may have built a habit of eating chips or whatever. There was a time in my life where it's been kind of up and down when it comes to fitness, right? After college, I can't eat, the way I used to eat, especially nowadays, I really can't eat the way I used to eat 10 years ago, right? So that's been evolving as well. So somebody who maybe was like a college athlete and they were really good, and then they just fell into this, exactly what you said, just getting into work and stuff. How do you go from the couch to even walking around the block? Yeah. How do you do that?
You do that. That's it. You go from the couch to walking around the block. It's that simple. And people want to be the old college athlete when they start a fitness program. So that's what I deal with. I deal with very successful businessmen who've achieved everything in life. They got the money, they got the cars, they got the properties, they got probably a second or third younger wife, but they have everything but the body. And like you said, I'm the guy popping up on the magazines. I'm the guy that was in their locker on the cover of a magazine, or I'm all over social media and they can't avoid me because my goal is to be just ubiquitous. I'm everywhere. I'm omnipresent. And they see me and eventually they respond to it. So when I'm having a conversation with that former college athlete who's no longer in that body, my job is to keep him protected from himself, because he wants to jump into the deep end of the pool. Well, I want to get in there and do. Nope, you're just going to take a walk around the block. Well, I just paid you $10,000 for a program. You're going to take a walk around the block because you paid me all this money for a program. You know why? I know. So when they pay me all this money to train them and I tell them just take a walk around the block, they question what I'm doing and they want something harder. But my job is to create a sustainable program with the exercises I prescribe, with the nutrition and everything, even engaging in the community, because community is a big part of what I do. Like you have your 4 pillars. I have 5 lifestyle principles. Yes. Mine are mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity.
Oh, that's great.
And then the way I have these guys check in with me, it's real simple. each day, say you were my client, each day in the morning at 7 a.m., you would send me a number on a scale of 1 to 10 in those 5 principles. So I would like to see 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Mm-hmm. And that way I message you back, great job, bro, because you were assessing what you did the day before.
Yep.
And great job, bro, keep it up, good work, we're gonna get there. But if you text me, 5, 1, 3, now I know exactly where you're struggling. You sent me a 5 in mindset. Yeah. What did you do today? Did you jump on the news? Because I know all of this based upon how I took you into the program. I have all of this data on you, and then that drives how I deliver the program.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Yeah. And a lot of times, even myself, when I'm in the gym now, it's like I want to go grab those plates and start putting plates on, but I have 2 torn rotator cuffs. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like I got to just suck up the pride. This isn't 1998, right? And I just go in there and I put on what I can do. Some days, what's really frustrating, some days I can't even go do the bench press because these are inflamed from something that I was doing, playing tennis or whatever it is. And then for me, it's that mindset thing of, hey, go do it, push your body, but it's not going to be what it was before. And once you're good with that, then everything else is like gravy. Then you can get past to the next thing. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
I was in the gym this morning, and my knees, right now, my right knee is just on fire. It's hurting. And I needed to do legs, but I only had 25s on each side of the squat bar. I did 10 sets of 10 with 25s. And I don't care what anyone thinks in the gym. Because I'm Clark Bartram. I've done a lifetime of work. I still look as good or better than anyone in there. Yeah. So it's not the weight that determines how I'm going to look. It's how I approach the weight. It's my mindset. It's my intention. And that goes in line with what you do here, right? It's the whole mindset piece of this. And the mindset includes me not giving a shit about what anybody else thinks that I'm doing, because I'm not there for them.
That's right.
I'm there for me. That's right. And I went in and I got a great leg workout today. And I felt very comfortable with what I did. I knew I didn't do any more damage, but I knew I needed to do what I needed to maintain the mass that I have.
Yeah, and that's amazing, man. And I think that if you have that purpose, you have that goal, what you're striving for, right? So for me, we're going to talk about this, but I'm going to do a competition in 2 weeks that you are putting on. Let's go. And so that's my goal, right? And so that there's a very specific way that I'm working out. There's things that I'm doing. I'm trying to stay healthy, and then there might be a goal of, hey, I just want to be flexible. Right? Which is fine. I just want to be able to play with my kids, or I want to be able to go play, basketball with my buddies or something. Right? So getting clear on what that fitness goal is a great thing, great place to start. And then you start working towards that. But what happens when they are moving toward, they're doing your program or they're doing a program, somebody who's watching right now, they're doing the program and they're driving home and they're like, ooh, I haven't had lunch. And they pull into the first fast food, right? Then they're eating fast food and they're like, oh man, I screwed up my diet, I screwed up everything. And then they go home and they have some ice cream or something and it kind of starts spiraling, right? How do they get back on track? And how important is it to do that?
It's very important to do that, obviously, as everyone knows. It's just pretty common sense. But the first thing I tell guys is don't beat yourself up. Because we have this tendency to say, oh, I'm a failure, I can't do this, and then we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. One meal is not going to ruin everything.
That's right.
And the fact that you have gotten into your head, like you said, I'm telling myself a story. Mm-hmm. People start telling themselves stories that are only true in their own brain. They're not true in reality. So if you go to In-N-Out and you have a burger and fries and a milkshake and you just do the worst meal, it's not going to ruin everything that you've done. It might even be good for you. Maybe you needed that mental break. So that's how I shift it, and I don't allow my guys to message me and say, I just screwed up, man, I got to start over. No, the next meal, you just eat a better meal the next meal. It's that easy. Just like a workout. I don't have workouts like my buddy Mike O'Hearn, for example. He's on another level. I'm not trying to measure up to that guy's level of beastery in the gym.
Yeah.
So when I left the gym today, I was satisfied with what I did.
Yeah.
So I think guys put too much pressure on themselves to be perfect. And then when they're not, which no one will ever be, they have this tendency to just kind of like, oh man, I can't do this. I've tried. This program doesn't work. No, if you're honest with me when you're checking in the meals, the mindset meals is, it says 5. And I message you and say, David, what did you do today? Why are you at a 5? And you hit me back and you say, oh, I went to In-N-Out. That's okay, bro. Don't worry about it. What did you eat next? Oh, I had some ice cream. Okay, now we're having to really have a more serious conversation. How bad do you really want this? Yeah. And then I have that conversation because I'm able to do that because they have given me license to be honest with them. And they came to me and they paid me money. Mm-hmm. So I can speak to them in ways that nobody else can speak to them because I'm not a yes man. But I know from doing this so much, it's so easy to do. And every single person's the same. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what your role is in life, what you've done. We're all just the same freaking thing trying to figure this out. And we need someone to guide us that we trust.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's great, man. And you said a couple great things, especially when you talk about everybody's going to screw it up, right? Everybody's going to screw it up. And then knowing where you're going and what's driving you to get there. And I want to talk about what drives you as well. But it's so funny when you start thinking about guys that are, just always looking forward, just pushing. This morning I was in the gym. And, when I joined the gym, I've only been there a few months now. But when I joined the gym, I didn't look as lean as I am now. Still pretty good, but not as lean as I am now. And the manager came up to me and he goes, man, you're looking lean, looking jacked. Wow, man, you're doing great.
Are you on steroids?
He didn't go that far. But what's funny is in my mind, I was like, you know what? It's like health and fitness is such a gradual process, right? It's going to be 30 days maybe before, depending where you're at, before you see some sort of substantial change, or another 30 days. So I'm always looking forward and I'm trying to get to a goal, right? But a lot of times, especially if you're an achiever, you're somebody who's been doing, I've done over 7,500, coaching calls with executives, athletes, entertainers. They rarely look back at where they came from. And when they do that, it's like, okay, whoa. It shifts how they feel and their perspective at whatever it is they're doing. Yeah, you screwed up for a few days, you had In-N-Out, you had ice cream, whatever, but look where you started, right? And so I use, some digital stuff to track my body fat and my weight and my, body mass and all these different things. And when you go back and you look, then you can see the progress that you made, because you don't always see it when you look in the mirror or you step on a scale or something like that. So I think that's important to keep people going. Now, what keeps you going? What drives you? What's your purpose when it comes to fitness?
I'm glad you used the word purpose because it's my purpose statement in life. And I created that probably about 25 years ago. I sat down with a marketing expert, and this was before anyone had taglines for their brand, an individual, especially in the fitness industry. So he and I went through this whole process of, what do I want to be? Who am I? You do this, so you know. And he took me through this whole thing that I had never been through before to make me really clearly define who I wanted to be in this industry. So the first thing we came up was with my tagline, Clark Bartram, America's most trusted fitness professional. And then from that, he said, now you need a purpose statement. Just like every business has a vision statement, and you need a purpose statement in your life. So we created my purpose statement, which is, and this is what drives me, to positively and powerfully affect everyone I come into contact with. So when I wake up in the morning, more often than not, the first thing I do is I take a breath. I'm getting kind of emotional thinking about it because this is real to me, and it's the only thing that keeps me moving forward at this pace I'm going at in life. I just recited in my head, today I will positively and powerfully affect everyone I come into contact with. And that looks differently for every single person. I was on a hike yesterday, and I was intentional about greeting every single person that passed me. Because when you pass humans, they typically put their head down, they don't want to engage. And then yesterday I made a post about getting to know people's stories and really being curious and interested in that. So I'm really going deeper into this purpose statement that I made years ago, because I don't want anyone who encounters me to not feel better after having encountered me than they did before. And that's really what drives me, man. And that helps the fitness stuff.
Ah, that's amazing. And that's outside of fitness, right? That's the greater good. And when I first became a coach and a speaker and an author, I went through a very similar journey. Like, what is my mission? What am I actually doing this for? And for me, it was, I want to help transform lives every day in a positive way. And that's been a decade of that. And so everything that I'm doing, even this podcast, you're going to be touching a lot of people, transforming their lives. Somebody's going to be sitting on the couch today and be walking around the block after this podcast. So that's amazing, man. And if we go back into your story, when was it that, what was it like growing up as a kid?
Yeah, growing up. So let me touch on that purpose statement in a minute and make it very clear how that keeps me moving in my fitness pursuit, because I think that was your real question.
Yeah.
I look the way I look, and without saying a word, it positively affects people. So that drives me. St. Ignatius said, in all things be a witness, and if necessary, use words. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to walk into a room and look like I look and have people go, damn, I need to start working out.
That's right.
Right? So it's a pride. It's a pride of ownership. It's a pride of stewardship. It's a pride of getting one opportunity to go through this life and be someone of value or no value. And I want to provide value everywhere I go. So the pride of that looking good is really what drives me. I've accomplished everything in the fitness world that I want to. So having those goals of getting another magazine cover, honestly, I just was on the cover of Iron Man. It's like, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, but it doesn't mean what it meant to me the first time I got on the cover. So that's not what drives me. What drives me is the human connection.
Yeah, that's great. And it's inspiring, I've had buddies tell me like, dude, I'm watching you do this thing and doing this thing. Man, you got me to call a trainer. You got me to go do this. And I had no idea, I'm just doing my thing. But because when we show up a certain way, that's inspirational to people as well.
You don't need to say a word. You don't need to say a word, man. So growing up for me was, a guy was trolling me the other night on the internet, and he said, this guy was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's just had everything his whole life. And I had to laugh. I'm like, bro, again, if you took 5 minutes to learn my story, you would clearly know that was absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
So like I said, I grew up in Canton, Ohio, steel mill industry, poor kid, divorced parents, mom working 3 jobs, trying to raise 4 of us. And she did her best, and we just all had to, it was like survival of the fittest. We all were kind of like these little humans figuring this thing out. And we bonded so much through that experience with me and my older brother, Rocco, who passed a couple years ago, my older sister, Michelle, my younger brother, Jason, who just called me on the way in.
Okay.
But when it came time for us to be able to go off and do whatever it was we were going to do as adults, each one of us just left like that. I left at 17. My sister left at 17 or 18. My brother took off at 17 or 18. My younger brother, we all kind of abandoned him and left him on his own, because we all did our thing, and he went off and did his thing. He's a fire chief now. So everyone's done well in life. And I think it was because of all of the trauma we went through, and everybody has a story. Everyone has this story of dysfunction, if you will. But as I look back on it, it wasn't dysfunction at all. It was what created me. It's what made me. And when I go back to Canton, Ohio, I'm shooting a documentary about my whole journey with prostate cancer. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I look at that house and I say, that's the house that built Clark Bartram. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for what happened within those 4 walls. And it's funny because one day I went And I knocked on the door of that house. Yeah. And this young black girl opens the door and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I said, "This is going to seem a little bit weird, but I grew up in this house." I said, "Do you mind if I come in?" And she looked at me and she said, "I can tell that something is real here. Come on in." She was holding a little baby. And I walked in and I looked around that house, and it just brought back, even now, so many memories of all of what I went through in there that created me to be the man that I am right here, right now, in this second. So I'm so grateful for every part of it. And when my mom was dying last year, I sat there with her and said, "Mom, you know, all of what we experienced as young kids growing up, and any guilt you might have of anything that you didn't necessarily do the way you wanted to, let it go. Because look at me. Look at me, Mom. I'm a badass." And it's because of you. So, and I think that's the beauty of age too, right? We get the opportunity to kind of reflect differently than we would have at 18 going, "Yeah, boy, crazy."
Well,
You know?
for sure. And you lived with your mom. Your
Yes.
mom raised you. And when you go back and you get those memories back there, like what was the most difficult thing you had to overcome when you were living in that house?
Just seeing my mom be abused by men, you know, watching her get beat up and taken advantage of, and just trying so hard to provide for us. I remember one time she, like I said, worked 3 jobs, and bill collectors were constantly calling, and she gave us very explicit directions. "Don't ever tell anyone I have a job. If anyone calls, don't tell them anything." And this guy called and conned me. "Hey, I'll never forget it. This is Paul. I'm a friend of your mom's. How you doing, bud? This is Clark, right? Oh, man." And did that whole thing. And he said, "Where's your mom at right now, bud?" I said, "Oh, she's at work." "Okay, thank you." Hung up. And my mom came home, and apparently he had called that hospital and garnished her wages or something. And I'll never forget it. My dad had taken a trip to Europe, and he brought me back this little copper bank that was shaped like a car, and it was full of quarters. And I was bawling, crying. I'm like, "Here, Mom, take this," you know, because I felt so bad, because she worked so hard. She worked so hard just to provide for us. So that was the hardest thing, seeing a woman do the best she could, but still be taken advantage of by just bitch ass dudes.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's got to be traumatic as a kid
Yeah.
to see. And when you were 17, were you in a way trying to escape?
Oh,
in that-
100%. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm gone. And, you know, we had no money. I wasn't going to college or anything like that. And I saw a Marine recruiter in the lunchroom in dress blues, and I thought, that's what I want to be right there. And I went up and talked to him. Next thing I know, I'm in the recruiter's office after a night of partying with my cousin. We were drinking a Michelob Light and smoking a joint. And he's like, "What are you going to do for the rest of your life?" I'm like, "I don't know. What are you going to do?" I said, "I saw a Marine. Let's go join the Marine Corps." And he's like, "When?" I said, "Right now." We finished the joint, put it out, finished a Michelob Light, went to the recruiter's office. And then because I was 17, my parents had to sign. So my mom's like, "Spread your wings, boop, boop, boop." She signed. And my dad's like, "But, you know, I wanted to go to Ohio State and do this." And I'm like, "Oh, come on.
And so you went in the Marines.
I went right to the Marine Corps at age 17.
17. How long did you serve?
I just did 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, I wanted to stay in longer, but yeah, they were not smart. They didn't know how to handle a good Marine that could have been a very valuable asset. You know, it was just some dumb career
happened?
planner. So I had promotions were being frozen back then in the 80s. So I had 23 months time and grade as an E3, a Lance Corporal, and it came time for me to re-enlist. And I went to my career planner, and I had it's called a cutting score. It's points that you accumulate by doing courses and doing different things to achieve the next rank. So I had the score to be the next rank. So I went to my career planner and said, "Hey, re-enlist me or promote me and I'll re-enlist." And he said, "No, re-enlist and we'll promote you." So it was this cat and mouse game. But the reason I wanted to be promoted before I re-enlisted was there was a bonus. And the bonus was $6,000 if I was an E3, but it was $12,000 if I was an E4. So if he would have promoted me, I would have got double the money to re-enlist.
Got you.
In 1984, $12K for a 22-year-old kid.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I'll take $12K right now, you know? So I said no. And I had this path in my mind. I wanted to be a drill instructor. I wanted to go on guard duty. I had all of these different things that I wanted to accomplish. It was laid out.
Yeah.
I had every intention of staying in the full 20 years. I loved it. I loved being a Marine. I was squared away. I mean, to this day, I still tuck my shoelaces in like that. I can't have.
You learned that in the Marines?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic,
Yeah.
man. And even that in those 3 years, do you think that helped make you who you are as well? Like
For
very
sure.
focused and going and just, being focused and moving forward.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I did 20. What I took away from 3 years as a Marine, if I would have done 20, I might have been unbearable, honestly. I don't know. If I would have been like the great Santini.
Would have been unbearable. Dude, that's great. That's awesome. So you get out of the Marines, and where were you?
I was at Camp Pendleton.
Camp Pendleton here in San Diego. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did you make the switch from the Marines to get into the fitness industry?
So I needed a job. My EAS, end of active service, was coming up. So I went out and started applying for jobs. And I saw Family Fitness Center hiring trainers.
I remember the Family Fitness Center.
Yeah, it turned into 24-hour.
Yeah, I was in a commercial for Family Fitness Center.
There you go.
Yeah, back in college.
Yeah, okay. So you know it. That was the OG 24-hour fitness. So I go in and I fill out an application, and there's a guy in there by the name of Danny Della Rosa, who is the manager. And he looked at me, he's like, okay, when do you get out? And we had this whole conversation. He's like, come back in 2 weeks. So I come back in 2 weeks. He's like, yeah, nothing's open up yet. Come back in 2 weeks. So I come back in 2 weeks. Now, meanwhile, my end of active service is getting closer and closer and closer, and your boy needs a job, needs a place to stay.
Yeah.
So I come back again. He's like, yeah, man, come back in a week. So now I got these two roommates. We went to Grand Tree Furniture Rental in Oceanside, and we were trying to rent furniture. And they said, write down where you work. I'm like, all right, Danny Della Rosa. I work at Family Fitness Center, and I will never forget the phone number, 434-6604. And I put that down. And I walk in the next time, and he's like, I like you, man. Come here. I said, bro, I needed a job. You kept telling me. They called him and said, does Clark Bartram work for you? He's like, now he does.
He does now.
Now he does. So I went in and I started working as a trainer, and then I got into sales, did extremely well in sales, and that got promoted into management and worked my way through that. And that's kind of really what got me into the whole fitness thing. Specifically.
Now, up until that point, right, we talk about purpose. We talked about what drives you. I call them the 4 Ps, right? Purpose and passion or skills, right? And then the people along the way, and then the performance. And so did you already have the skills of working out and the passion for working out before you started at Family Fitness?
Yeah. So the backstory on working out for me was we had a bull worker when I was a kid. It was this thing, spring-loaded. You would push it together, and it had cables on both sides so you could do curls and stuff. And there were 4 of us in the neighborhood, and we decided we wanted to have see who could get the most jacked with this bull worker. So I used it a week. Tim Gillis used it a week. Scott Pizzuti used it a week. Eddie Beadle used it a week. So we have the day where we're going to see who got the most jacked. And I'm like 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
So we show up at the playground at Clarendon Elementary School, and bull worker in hand. So we decided that the measure of who was the most jacked was biceps.
Yeah.
So we're going around, gets to me, and my bicep looked exactly like it looks now. Balled up, tight,
Wow.
And when I flexed my bicep, they laughed at me. They called me the R word. Oh, you're, and deformed. And I cried and ran home.
So they were making fun of you.
They were making fun of me.
Jacked, round ball bicep.
Because it was not normal. It didn't look like the other kids. I was predisposed. The genetic potential was there.
Yeah.
And when I did that, they laughed. I cried. I ran home. Then I find myself in this YMCA in downtown Canton, and this big black man in there, Henry McGee, never forget. And it's important that I say black man, black girl, and all of that, because where I grew up in the 70s, it was different. You know what I mean? It was just different then. The fact that this man spoke life into me was huge. He said, "You're not deformed. You're not deformed at all. You could be a world champion bodybuilder someday, son. Do you understand me? That bicep is world class." And he just spoke life into me. Wow. And for a young 13-year-old kid like that in Canton, Ohio, having this man who was just like not in my world telling me this was just rare, you know?
And so back then, was it like black and white?
Yeah.
And weren't coming together in Ohio there?
It was very integrated. You know, all my buddies were black dudes. You know what I'm saying? But people always say, "Why you got to say black man?" Because it was important to the story. You know, it was important to the story. And so that planted a seed in me. So I got into the Marine Corps, and there was this guy named Gonzo that was this jack dude on steroids. And he was, because I saw him. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I saw steroids on the side, you know?" I'm like, "What is this? This is crazy." He's like, "You could be buff, you know, let's go to the gym." So it was Henry McGee, then this guy named Gonzo, and then another black dude, Ernie Miller, in Family Fitness Center. He's like, "CB," he called me CB. "CB, you can be a champion bodybuilder. CB, you need to do a show. You need to do a show." So in '88, I did the Muscle Mania, which at the time,
I remember that.
yeah. The Muscle Mania then in '88 wasn't the big thing that it is now.
Okay.
I am under the belief that Lou Zwick, the guy that promoted the Muscle Mania shows, got the name from me. Because when I won that show in 1988 that was promoted by a guy named Jim Kellogg, Lou Zwick called me up and said, "Hey, send me your photos," because there was a show called American Muscle Magazine on ESPN.
Okay.
And he wanted to feature me on that. So it said 1988 middleweight and overall winner of the Muscle Mania. So he saw that Muscle Mania name and thought, "Oh, that's a great name for a show. I'm just going to take it." You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know where this whole thing started off at, but yeah, that's kind of how the whole workout stuff started for me.
That's how it started.
Was back with the Bullworker, and here's a cool story. I was back in Ohio probably 10 years ago, and my friend Chris Beadle, the sister of Eddie Beadle, who's long since passed, she said, "Oh, I got something for you. You of all people need to have this." She runs down the basement and she comes up with the Bullworker.
Come on.
And it's hanging in my garage. Rusty.
It's the same one that you got the jack
one.
Your jack biceps.
Yep. And Bullworker, the company, is still in existence. They heard my story, flew a crew out, and shot a whole entire YouTube video about it. It's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
That hangs on my wall in my garage, just reminding me of that's where it all began for me.
That's where it began.
Yeah.
And then is that when after winning that you started getting the calls like, "Hey, we want you to come sell our product," or go for that thing?
It didn't start till, so the whole thing with the fitness, like as an influencer, started when one day I saw at a bodybuilding show all these photographers making a fuss over this guy. Good-looking kid, real good-looking kid. And I'm like, well, I look as good as he does. Why are they fussing over him and not me?
Yeah.
And it was actually Lou Zwick from American Muscle. They were doing a feature on him, and I was a little bit jealous. And I thought, I need to be doing that as well. And go back even further, I one day was rolling a joint on the cover of a Muscle and Fitness magazine. And there was a guy on there, and it said, "World's Most Handsome Bodybuilder." The guy's name was James DeMello.
Okay.
James DeMello is now he's my spiritual father. He's my guy that I go to when shit hits the fan. It said, "World's Most Handsome Bodybuilder." I'm rolling a joint. I look at my buddies. I'm like, I'm as good looking as this guy. I need to be on the covers. Why am I not? Why not me? Why pay attention to me? So those were the things that planted the seed in my mind that this is a possibility for me. But the question then became, how do I do it?
That's right.
So I was doing a photo shoot once with a guy by the name of Ralph DeHaan, world-class photographer. He was under contract with Joe Weider at the time with Muscle and Fitness. And I was just carrying bags for him. And a bodybuilder came over from Australia. And they were finishing up the shoot. And the bodybuilder said to Ralph, I'll call you the next time I'm in shape. And a light bulb went off in my head. I thought, what if I'm always in shape? Because I knew enough to know that the magazines needed models, the supplement companies needed people, and all of these different businesses needed me. So how did I get in front of them? By always being in shape. So I put it out there to the world. I told Ralph, I'm always going to be in shape. You ever need me, I'm always in shape. I'm always in shape. I'm always in shape. So one day I'm detailing some cars. I had a pager. And I get a page from an 818 area code, and that's up in Woodland Hills.
Oh, yeah. I was 818.
Yeah. So you know. I'm like, 818? We're 619 down here. This is before 760. And so I went into the office of the guy that I was detailing his car. I said, can I use your phone? Sure. I said, it's long distance. Don't stay on too long. Call after 7, whatever. And so I call, and they say, Muscle and Fitness, can I help you? I was like, oh, shit, Muscle and Fitness, what? What? I said, yeah, this is Clark Bartram calling. Oh, yeah, Mr. Chatta has been waiting for your call. And I knew already that Jim Chatta was the art director for Muscle and Fitness because I did my homework.
Yeah.
So he's like, he picks up the phone. He said, okay, Mr. Always in Shape, I need you for a photo shoot tomorrow because the guy that I had originally chose isn't available. He's out of shape. So my idea of what if I'm always in shape? Because these guys, it was only bodybuilders that got in shape. Fitness models didn't exist.
Okay.
They did not exist. So I like to consider myself like the legitimately first fitness model because I decided to not go the bodybuilding route and bulk and cut and bulk and cut, get on the juice, get all huge. I wanted to be marketable. And I knew well enough that marketable was you got to be ready, you got to be appealing to the masses, not 260 pounds at 5'8". So he said, okay, be at Fullerton Powerhouse tomorrow at 8 a.m. So I show up. Ralph DeHaan's there. He's like, dude, Jim Chatt is here. He never shows up to shoots. So I walk up. I see him. He said, okay, Mr. Always in Shape, pop your top. Boom. He's like, oh, okay. All right. And that turned into 8 pages in Muscle and Fitness.
8 pages.
Full page, intro, header. And then it really sunk in my mind, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm Clark Bartram, and I'm always in shape. These other fools getting big and bulky and out of shape, I'm stealing their jobs. And out of all of the covers I've done, and let's say it's 140.
Yeah.
I've probably been called like, hey, Clark, we want you for the cover maybe 7 times. All of the other ones, I kicked the door down. I'm here. I'm in shape. You need me. That dude ain't ready. I know how to sell stuff. I know how to promote stuff.
Sales.
Yeah. Absolutely. Every time I got on the cover, I made everyone take a picture of it, post it on their Facebook or MySpace.
Yeah.
And so just in the back of my brain, I knew how to market. It just made sense to me.
Yes. And I think, and this is such a great story, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that these bodybuilders, when you see them on the muscle magazines or whatever, we just think that they look like that all the time. And 90% of bodybuilders after the show, they'll go back to eating stuff, and they're out of shape, right? So this idea of always being in shape is amazing. And how did you do that back then with nutrition? Like, what were you eating? Like, what were you know what I'm saying? To be always in shape, you got to have some serious discipline in there.
It's funny because my son, he's playing football for this new arena football team, the Oceanside Bombers, and we have all the guys over to the house. And they're in my garage looking at all the things. And it's really heartwarming to me to hear my son tell the stories.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to him, and it's the EAS Evolution ad that I did, which to this day is still the biggest ad campaign.
That ad was amazing.
Yeah.
Explain to the visual of it.
So the visual is like the evolution of man, where you have the Cro-Magnon man, he turns into the upright walking human from caveman. Bill Phillips had the idea that came from another guy to do a out of shape guy that evolved into an in shape guy. So there's a series of 4 photos that Bill Phillips had me take. I got out of shape for the ad specifically on purpose because I was shooting a cover the day I got the call for that. And then, I worked my way back into shape, but it was a very, very detailed photo shoot. And it was, to this day, the biggest ad campaign in the history of fitness. Billboards, semi-trucks driving down the road with me on the side, parties, John Elway and all of them there, and me, giant posters. This was in the 90s, and it was a huge ad campaign. But back to the eating thing, and my son telling the story, we have that evolution poster in my garage, a big one. It was one of the ones that the photographer, Cal Yee, had in his office. He moved. He's like, Clark, do you want this? I said, absolutely. So it's in there, and my son's explaining to these football players, it was crazy for me because I walk into the house one day and I see my dad eating pizza and ice cream. In my whole life, I had never seen my dad eat that way. It was always out of a Tupperware, and it was chicken and fish and oatmeal. I freaked out, and I'm sitting back watching my son tell the story of his experience of watching me get out of shape for this ad.
That's amazing.
And I just took so much pride watching my son be proud of me and
Yes.
and have good memories of the discipline that I exercised that trickled down onto them. Because again, the quote I said earlier, in all things be a witness, and if necessary, use words. My
Yes.
kids just saw me their whole life
Yes.
being, we're going to a party. Oh, I got to get my Tupperware. Hold on. I'd show up to the party with food in hand.
That's right.
They thought that was normal.
That's right.
They didn't know any different. So they've also turned into that. But yeah, it was normal stuff. I just ate chicken and fish and rice and eggs and all the stuff that I'm still eating today. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Arnold and Frank Zane and all of them were doing it back then. We're still doing it today.
That's amazing. What amazing. There's so much stuff. I mean, I remember being in college and seeing that ad, and I'm like, oh man, that's amazing. And now when you tell that story, we used to always think like, the guy must have been ripped and I didn't know you, right?
Yeah.
Or he must have bulked up for it. The same way you would bulk up for
did.
like a part in a movie or something like that. How weird was that in that bulking phase, like eating ice cream and pizza, and you hadn't been doing that for years?
No. And it was extremely weird for me because the discipline of eating this way all the time and not being the guy that bulked up for stuff, it was odd. So when I started eating that way and getting out of shape, Bill Phillips wanted me to come to Gold's Gym Venice every week to see if I was out of shape enough yet.
Wow.
So Cal Yee would take a photo of me in a Polaroid photo.
Yeah.
And he would look at it. He would send it to Bill Phillips. He's like, nope, not good enough yet. Not good enough yet. And the backstory on the ad is the guy that was originally supposed to do it, Mike Ryan, ran Gold's Gym then. And he decided not to do it. And I was shooting a cover of Muscle Media magazine, and there was a girl behind me. And literally, Cal Yee, and I'm cover, ready, takes this photo. Girl hops off. His phone rings. Then he starts arguing with someone on the phone. He's like, you told me you were going to do it. What am I going to do now, Bill? And this whole thing. So he hangs up the phone, calls Bill Phillips. He's like, well, Clark is here. And I hear Bill, well, ask him if he'll do it. So Cal Yee asked me, he's like, hey, will you get out of shape for an ad? We got this idea. And I said, well, sure. How much are you going to pay me? And they told me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Yes, I will.
The other guy wanted a motorcycle and all sorts of stuff. So I went from like literally shooting a cover that day to going home. And he said, when your family asks you what you're doing, when you're eating a pizza and ice cream, tell them you're working. And that's what my son saw. They came home, I had a pizza, I had ice cream because I was trying to get fat and out of shape.
Oh my, how long did it take you to finally, from when you started shooting the cover to when you could shoot the
It took
the
like
ad?
5 months.
5
And
months to get out of shape.
Yeah, I even pushed my belly out and the whole shoot was very, very structured. He's like, okay, look like you're hungover. I'm like, I can do that. And he's like, eh. So we went through this whole thing. I mean, the distance was measured from the camera and just my hand placement. If you look at how he positioned every part of my body, from my elbow being like this so you couldn't see any openings, so I looked bigger, to just slightly, and then boom, and then But here's a really cool thing. About 2 years ago, I did a project with Russell Brunson, and Russell bought the rights for a year to that ad because he thought it was the greatest marketing thing in the world, because Russell Brunson.
Because he's a marketer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the next photo, the 5th photo in that evolution.
Okay.
And Cal Yee and I, the photographer, had not seen each other since then.
Wow.
So there's a video of that on YouTube as well, where he and I were reunited to shoot 26 years later, the next photo. And the cool thing was he looked way better and I looked way better than we did 26 years earlier.
You're kidding me.
Swear to God.
We got to put a link to that.
Yeah,
down here.
it's super cool. Because I walk in, we see each other, and all of these people in the shoot were there kind of knowing what was going to happen. And when we saw each other and I started doing this again, I broke down. I broke down and started crying because I'm like, dude, this is insane to think that we're here 2, almost 3 decades later doing this again. And I look better than I did then. And you look better than you did then. What does that say to people who are aware and think beyond, oh, this is a cool picture? Like that's a lot.
Full circle. That's full circle. What was the 5th picture?
Me, like, just more shredded.
Just
and,
more
yeah,
shredded.
as this thing went, it slowly went from hungover and out of shape to the 4th one there was like this. And then this one was like, just the next level of energy, the next level of life, and the next level of enthusiasm. There's so many layers to marketing that people don't really get because all they see is the bright, shiny thing.
Yeah.
But the stuff that's underneath that, especially for this, it goes way beyond that. And if someone really thinks about the meaning behind these things, that should be what inspires them.
Yeah.
If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an example of what is possible. That's meant to encourage me to be my best version and have my own evolution.
Absolutely. And that's what when a really good friend of mine in marketing said, hey, what are you really trying to do? I want people to unleash their full potential.
Yeah.
Right. And for you, a lot of people might say that ad was the pinnacle, but there's something beyond that, and for me on my fitness journey, I started when I was 13. There was a place called Kmart. It was like the Walmart, the blue light special.
Oh, yeah.
I went over there and I was really skinny. I was running track. I was playing football, but I was really skinny as a 13-year-old and I wanted to kind of bulk up. And so I go to Kmart and I don't know if you remember these weights. It was like a plastic bar with the red pieces. Some of them you could put sand in or you could put water in them. I got the ones that were cement and I had that and I had 2 dumbbells. And I pulled out the directions of how to do a curl. I started doing curls and started, doing that and started getting a little bit of muscle going. And that started my fitness journey.
That's great.
And even when we have these setbacks, right? When I was 52, when I did my first bodybuilding competition, where that journey started was crazy. We were talking a little bit about it, I think, before. I was on a ski. I love skiing. That's one of my favorite things. And we were skiing in Utah, and we're in a place called Deer Valley. Really exclusive. I was with my buddy, and he's like, hey, we're going to go ski in this thing. He had a vendor do this setup. staying in the St. Regis Hotel right on the mountain. I think it was like $5,000 a night or something like that. So they give you a ski guide the next day, and he takes you all around the mountain, places you wouldn't really go.
They better give you more than that for $5,000.
Oh
a night,
my
bro.
God, man. It was fantastic. You're just right there. You're on the, and so we're kind of living the life, right? And we're skiing around, we're having a great time. And then this one run, we have a connector run. So we're doing some pretty hairy stuff. We're in the trees, like cliffs, the whole deal. And we get to this one area where we just have to connect, go down a little intermediate run and get on another lift to go to another part of the mountain. So I'm skiing down, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just feel this bam. It was like a Mack truck ran into me out of nowhere. Probably doing 30 miles an hour or so, just runs into the right side of my body, lifts me up out of the air, spins me around backwards. So now I'm facing backwards. I'm in the air facing backwards down the hill. And I just land and get twisted up. And my skis were so tight on my feet that they didn't pop off, right? So now I'm at the mercy of where the skis are going. And finally I'm tumbling and I stop. And somebody comes by. That person kept going, by the way.
So you got hit by a person.
Oh, you got hit by a person who was skiing, maybe out of control, and maybe doing 20, 30 miles an hour, just gone. They took off. Somebody comes over and says, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't think so." And I tried to get up, untwist myself. And, from my abdomen down, I could feel something wasn't right. So they put me in this, they put me in the, it's like a ski bag thing. And they take me down to the bottom, down to the infirmary. And the nurse is looking at me, and I was just going to go back to the hotel, take a nap, and just feel better later. And she was feeling around my abdomen, and it started swelling up. And she said, "Do you mind if I call Park City Hospital real quick?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." She calls them, has a conversation with the doctor, and she says, "You know what? We'd feel better if you went over to the hospital." And I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I was going to have my buddy just drive me over there in a rental car or something. And she goes, "Yeah, we've got the ambulance outside for you." I'm like, "Huh?" And she goes, "We just want to make sure it's not internal bleeding."
She knew all along how bad it was, just kind of.
She knew.
Yeah.
She
She's
knew.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. And so I get into the back of the ambulance. I go to Park City. They take a look at me. They do a chest, and they said, "Hey, you know what? You have internal bleeding right now. We have to put you on a helicopter, and we're going to send you to Salt Lake City."
Damn.
And in that moment, a blizzard hits, and so starts snowing, so the helicopter can't take off. So they said, "You know what? We're going to put you in another ambulance. They're going to drive you down the mountain, about 45 minutes or so." And in the meantime, the doctor's talking to my wife, and my wife is in LA with my son. He races go-karts. They're at his go-kart, race. And she says, "Do I need to fly out there?" And I found this out later. The doctor said to her, "You know what? We'll know in 45 minutes if he's going to make it."
Damn.
So for me, I'm just going, I don't know what's happening. And what must have ended up happening is my pole went into my abdomen. It didn't pierce the skin, but it went in there and messed up my spleen and some different things in there. And, miraculously, by the grace of God, by the time I got to the hospital, the internal bleeding had stopped. But I was pretty messed up, couldn't walk. I had a walker, a catheter. If anybody watching has ever been on a catheter, it's a rough deal. And we had a hospital bed brought into my bedroom. And at the time, I was in a fitness challenge with some buddies of mine. And they're like, "Well, dude, you can't walk. You can't even get up, go to the bathroom, right? So, you're out of the fitness challenge." I said, "No, I want to stay in the fitness challenge because that's something that's going to help me heal my body." And for me, I was doing Pilates in the bed. I heard that it had been founded by a boxer who was bedridden. And so I started doing Pilates, I had a walker, started doing dips in the walker, and slowly started to get better. And I made the fitness challenge, hit my goals from there. Strict diet, the whole deal. And then once I had my physical therapist would come over, teach me how to walk again. I'd start walking. He said, "Man, you got to walk with a cane. It'd be cool." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not walking with a cane." So he got me some walking sticks that you might hike with. Like you go to the top of a mountain. So I started doing that. And so now my goal is to get to the top of Kilimanjaro with this walking stick that taught me how to walk again. But I just kept getting back into the gym, kept getting better and better and better, hired a coach. And he happened to be a professional bodybuilder in the PNBA, Natural Bodybuilding Association. And he's like, man, you're looking really good. You should get on stage. I'm like, dude, I'm not getting on stage. I would like to see my abs, but I'm not going to get on stage. Kept going, getting a little better. He's like, man, you better get on stage, and do bodybuilding competition. I was like, man, I'm not doing it, right? And it just kept getting better and better and better. And at some point in my head, and this was the main point, was I said, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life at 52. Not before, after the days of running track, playing football, being a young guy in the gym, being in the family fitness commercial, right? What if I could be even better after 50? And that's what I kind of put into my head. And sure enough, that was when I did my first one. That's where I saw you, was at the cancer,
Stand Up for Cancer.
Stand Up for Cancer. And went in and did my first bodybuilding competition. There were a couple of us in my age group. Yeah. I won by like 1 point. Hey. Something like that. So got some medals. All my kids have their gymnastics medals and all types of stuff. So that really showed me that I could do that. And now in doing these competitions, not only is it physically important, it's mentally important in keeping myself mentally fit. But I love that you guys took this iconic ad and added the fifth. Yeah. And you are in better shape now than you were 30 years ago. Yeah. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, it feels great. And it's possible for anyone to do the same thing. Everyone can have an evolution. They just got to choose to do it and get up off the couch and walk around the block.
And get off the couch and walk around the block. And so a lot of people are talking about this now. Peptides. Yeah. What are peptides? Are they good for you? And do you take peptides?
I don't take peptides, and peptides are overrated, I think. They've been given too much credit too soon for too many things. That's all I'll say. I'm actually going to say more.
Good, because I'm just learning about peptides.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that they can take a shot of something and it's just going to change the whole way they exist in life.
Exactly.
And it bothers me. I'm not saying that all of them don't work, because we see evidence that they do. Mm-hmm. Trizempatide, Ozempic, what's the one the bodybuilders are doing? Retatrutide, all these bodybuilders are doing now. And I just think that people rely on things and they're giving peptides too much credit. It's the flavor of the day. Mm-hmm. They will be gone soon. People will not be talking about them as much as they're talking about them now, and the next thing is going to come along. So right now, it's TRT and peptides are the two things. So I've taken a peptide before to see, like BPC 157 or whatever it is, to see if it would fix my knees. Nothing's happened. Everyone's like, yeah, just take this shot and things will change.
So there's different peptides that will do different things for your body.
There's a peptide for everything. There's a peptide that will make me as dark as you.
Wow.
Right hand to God.
Tanning peptides.
And they will make me as dark as you in 4 weeks. Wow. Or less. I could take this. I don't know what the name of it is.
Wow.
But I see a guy in the gym that is a white dude that his skin is as dark as yours.
Wow. From taking peptides.
And what about that one specific peptide?
And what about building muscle? Are guys out there building muscles from peptides?
Yeah. There's testosterone boosting peptides. There's growth hormone boosting peptides. There's a peptide for everything. And everyone's coming out with their own peptides. And people are getting peptides from people who have no business selling peptides to people, right? You can chat GPT a label in a bottle and make it look cool and come up with some BS story of where you got it. I don't trust any of this stuff. If I do peptides, and when I did the BPC, I went to a place that I knew was getting it from an actual compounding pharmacy. Not, if anyone says, yeah, I got it from my brother's friend, then you better run the other way.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of you're getting some bullshit from somewhere that Now, as much as I am like on them, I think that they have their place. TRT has its place. Everything has its place, but things are being abused. TRT is being abused. Peptides are being abused.
Wow.
I talked to a guy today, real quick.
Yeah.
A guy today. I said, buddy, you look different. Are you on a peptide? Yeah, man, but I feel like shit. He's losing weight, but he feels horrible. To me, health is how you feel in your energy. Is it worth feeling like crap to lose a couple pounds? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not him, and I'm not judging him. It was just curious to me that that was his response. I was in the barbershop the other day. Guy saying, yeah, I got on 5 different peptides. I was taking them all wrong. And then he went on to say, I'm going to have my son get on them. I'm like, bro, like, so this is my point. There are misinformed people taking things that they have no idea where they came from, hoping that they're going to do everything for them, but the main thing they should be doing, they need to be getting off the couch, walking around the block, eating right and exercise. Mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity. And when I say integrity, like reporting your behavior to your coach with integrity. Don't lie to me if you went to In-N-Out, right? Be honest. And then live your life with integrity, because no peptide is going to cover up for you being a horrible human and you're eating yourself to death because you feel guilty about your life. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. But when you think about peptides, and it's something that's new, I remember back in the 90s, everybody was losing weight on fen-phen, it was called. Yeah. And it was this great thing. We're losing weight. Then it turned out it was killing people.
Yeah. Well, I got a buddy that's on it. He just got on it the other day because peptides didn't work for him. So he got on fen-phen. See, what's the problem with fen-phen, though, is people were abusing it.
Yeah.
They were not being prescribed.
Yeah.
People are taking TRT that aren't being prescribed TRT because they have hypogonadism or some valid reason.
Explain what TRT is. What is TRT?
Testosterone replacement therapy. So it's people, so that acronym alone, testosterone replacement therapy. Therapy meaning it's done in a clinical setting.
That's right.
Replacement is you're replacing a hormone that your body's not producing to the level that it should be producing it.
That's right.
And testosterone being the male hormone that makes you, and me, and everyone thinks that putting testosterone in your body is going to suddenly make you lose 20 pounds, walking around with a hard dick all the time, just being the man. And every single human metabolizes all of this stuff differently. And every single human is not going to have the same results. So when people start using this, I'll say off-label, when it's not really truly therapy and they're getting it from a friend and they're just getting it from a gym bro and they don't need it because it's truly not therapy, they just want to boost their testosterone up because someone on the internet convinced them, bro, you got to be at 800 to 1,000 because at 18 you were at 800 to 1,000, and you don't know nothing, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what this guy was. You don't know what his underlying issues are. So this is my frustration with peptides and TRT. We're giving it too much credit for too many things, and people are not doing the basic stuff they should be doing.
Yes.
That's just eating right and exercising.
Yes.
That's it.
And a lot of times people think that they're eating healthy, right? And sometimes, they just don't know. What should they be eating? Like what do you have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
So this morning I had what I eat. I ate eggs and I had a protein bagel.
A protein bagel?
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it was really good with some nice butter on it. It was great. I enjoyed it. So I eat a little differently now than I used to when I was Mr. Tupperware. But what people should be eating is a sustainable nutritional program.
That's the key.
Because
anybody can diet for 30 days or something, and then they go back to the way they were before.
Yeah.
They need to create a lifestyle.
All these fad diets, keto, and, people ask me, Clark, what do you think of intermittent fasting? Here's what I think of intermittent fasting. We, by nature of being human beings, intermittently fast. Think about this with common sense for 1 second, right?
Yep.
We intermittently fast, and it's the whole mindset shift that made what we're already doing start working. So let me take the regular human. You sleep for 8 hours, so there's an
Yep.
8-hour fast. You get
Yep.
up and you're busy. This is the negative look at it. Well, I was busy this morning, Clark. I didn't get to eat. So until 1 o'clock. So there's 8 hours. Say you got up at 5, right? Or 7. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. So there's another 6 hours. So there's a 14-hour fast.
14-hour fast. Yeah.
Okay? So that's close to the window that everyone's talking about now. Then, bro, I had to eat a bunch of food. I just ate. Okay. They say eat anything in this window that you want. But my mindset is I'm busy. I couldn't do it. And then you have another break. Well, I got busy and I came home. Then I ate whatever was in the refrigerator. So you did a 16-hour, you did a 16 whatever ratio that they come up with. But suddenly some marketer comes along and tells people, this is great. If you don't eat until 1 o'clock after you wake up and you have a cup of coffee and then you eat a bunch during this window, now suddenly everybody's losing weight. All it is a calorie deficit.
Yep.
But the only shift they made, one was their mindset shift because, this guy told me if I eat this way, bro, you were doing the exact same thing. You were just eating a little bit differently. Now that this guy told you, you're eating a little healthier during the window that you're getting your nutrition in.
That's right.
There's someone please tell me different that what I'm saying is wrong. It's not. It's just normal. And then keto, that's great, but is it sustainable for you? Can I sit a loaf of bread in front of you after you not eating any bread for 12 weeks and you're smelling that and you eat one piece? You're eating it all. You're going to lose your mind. You're going to go into this frenzy. If you're a regular person, there's a certain percentage of people that can do it. But my whole thing is if you eat a Mediterranean diet, for example, that includes everything, but it's fresh, it's healthy, it's whole food, it's not processed, it's not out of a box. My buddy Jack LaLanne said, Clark, if man made it, don't eat it. If man made it, don't eat it. Clark, you understand me? Tell your students this. Why, Clark, why would our students feed their dog the best food ever, but they get up in the morning and they have coffee, a cigarette, and a donut? Clark, I just don't understand it. And it makes sense. Yeah. It makes total sense. We'll feed our dogs the greatest food ever, but then we'll eat crap.
That's right. My wife is from Italy, and so we split our time between San Diego and Italy. And when we're in Italy, the bread is totally different. The pasta is totally different. People who are gluten-free that go to Italy and eat the fresh food, they're not gluten intolerant, right? Yeah. They're totally fine. And what's funny is here we have farmers market, and you can go and they'll charge you a bunch of money for some lettuce. When you go to Italy, my wife's mom every morning would walk down to the farmers market where the farmers were. You'd get whatever vegetables were fresh. She'd have her favorite people that she went to, whatever. Every morning, fresh food. Nothing was frozen. Then she'd have the butcher and all the different things, and it's just a whole different way of living. And when you look at the processed food that's there, a lot of the dyes, the high fructose corn syrup, all those things are illegal there. They actually want their people to be healthy. And when you go visit Italy, you walk around, there's not a lot of overweight people. It's not an obese nation, right? And they're walking. You do a lot of walking. You're eating natural foods. It's really interesting when you start thinking about that.
Yeah, that's one of the blue zones is what, in Sardinia?
In Sardinia, yes. Sardinia's beautiful.
Albania.
It's amazing. People living longer as well. And, it's funny how things are changing. Like I remember seeing, commercials when I was younger of like the 50-year-olds, right? Yeah. You'd see the gray-haired couple, they're walking, holding hands, they've got their AARP, they're enjoying their dentures and
they embrace their
diapers, 50, right? And now, 62, 54, it seems like there's a new perspective. Like there's a new perspective on what 50 could be or 60 could be, maybe even 70 or 80. I've seen bodybuilders who are 70 years old.
Oh, that last
they
show
look
I went
amazing.
to at the NBA, that whole lineup, I'm like, look at these freaks, man. This is great. And that's unfortunately that we have to categorize them as freaks because, again, they're outliers, they're anomalies, they're unicorns. They're not normal humans.
Yes.
But they should be normal humans.
Yes. And I think the idea of oh, I'm just big boned, or oh, it's my genetic disposition. Some of those things might be true, but there is always a way to change that eating lifestyle, getting that exercise, doing something different, being able to do something better. So from your perspective, what could somebody do who's been struggling, with eating? They know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're supposed to eat. They know they should go get exercise. How can they start to make a change? Like, what's the first thing they should do?
I was talking about having a why that'll make you cry, because just doing it because you want to lose a few pounds or you're getting ready for your high school reunion, some surface level decision isn't enough, because they've made them before in the past. So you have to really lock into a purpose for doing it. And just living healthy in your human body should be enough. It should be enough to go, wow, I got one go around at this. And for me, I have more years behind me than I have ahead. So if people looked at their life like that and realized that I'm going to get more out of every part of my life, I'm going to be more productive at work, I'm going to get more respect at work, I will have more fun in my marriage, when I go to Italy, I can walk the hills and do all of these things that, I'm not going to not be able to do that. How many people don't enjoy a vacation because they're not healthy enough to enjoy a vacation?
Yes.
So there has to be a reason beyond just the aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
The aesthetic should be a byproduct of a why that'll make you cry.
Absolutely.
I want to do this now. I want grandkids so bad, because I want to be that grandfather that you see out there that's tossing the rock, that's running around, that's having fun. It's like, who is that guy? That's my grandpa, And there goes that pride again. And it's a good pride. People think pride is bad. Man, my pride is all around taking ownership of who I am and representing my name and my dad and people who taught me, and Henry McGee and all of these people that have poured into my life, and Jack LaLanne, all of these people that have just poured knowledge into me. I want to take that information and not allow that to be just wasted, and carry on legacy and purpose and vision and just encouragement to people, to positively and powerfully affect everyone I come into contact with.
I love that, man. And people is the third P, right? In the pillar, right? You have your purpose. For me, it's I want to be around for my kids, and I want to be able to play with them and different things. My dad worked 2 jobs, really hardworking guy. But at night, we didn't see him sometimes. And then the weekend, he was so out of it, he just wanted to relax. I wanted to go play catch. Come on, let's go play catch. And he couldn't always do it, right? Didn't have the energy, didn't have the fitness and different things. And for me, it was so important to be that dad. Like, you want to be that, I'd love to be that grandfather, who's throwing the football. I just saw a meme the other day, and it was very, very powerful to me when I looked at this older couple. They were in Venice. They're on a gondola. They'd probably worked their whole lives, and finally they're in retirement. They get to go to Venice, go to Italy, and somebody's videotaping them as they're going by. They're on another gondola. The gondolas are passing each other, and both of them are like this.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? No energy, right? And so I thought that was pretty funny.
It's real life.
It's real life, because it showed me that, hey, having energy and being able to do that is so important. When I think it was Jack LaLanne, I remember seeing this on TV. That's amazing that you had that person in your life to inspire you. I think it was his 75th birthday, and you tell me if this is right or not. He was an avid swimmer, and he put 75 rowboats behind him and linked them all together with rope. And he swam, I don't know if he swam a mile or something, with 75 rowboats.
Yeah. With 75 people in them.
75 people in them, too.
Yeah. That was real. He did all those feats of strength. And, I don't know if this is folklore or if it's actually true, the term "get jacked." Like,
go get jacked. That's it. I know he invented the jumping jacks.
Yeah, so,
right. The
so
jumping jack.
think about that. Get jacked. I mean, I would love to have that about me, right? Get Clarked. It's like,
Get Clarked. Get Clarked.
Because it's just as anonymous, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
jacked was nothing back then, so yeah, I'm gonna get Clarked.
I'm gonna get Clarked, man.
But think about this for a second with respect to being there for our kids. At 62, my son is playing professional football now. He's living his dream. I am literally out there with him every single night, running routes, catching balls, catching kicks for the kicker, and engaging with all of these other guys who, if we're talking statistically, their fathers are not like me.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
And my son has the privilege of being with his dad, who's capable of being out there and doing this at a high level. Not that I could go out and play. I'm not that dumb, but I'd like to.
Come on.
But it brings me again so much joy to know that I am in a position in life at this stage of my life to engage with my son in a passion that he has and have that. So last night we were getting ready to go to practice. He's like, "You coming to practice?" I said, "Absolutely. I'm not missing any of this. You know, I'm going to go." And I was tired. I wanted to take a nap. I wanted to go to sleep. Actually, I wanted to go to sleep because I go to sleep every night at 8 o'clock, and practice was late last night. But I went, and I'm happy I went.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And the fact that you can do that and participate. You know, I coach my son's flag football. It's not professional.
Yeah, well,
but
no,
sometimes, you know, the
where it all
kids aren't
started.
there and, you know, I got to go run routes and do things. And
you can.
a lot, and I can. And that's a blessing that I can get to go do that. And, you know, when we talk about fitness, even a guy, arguably the 62-year-old most in shape guy in our country, Clark, right? You had a health challenge.
Yeah.
Life or death.
Yeah.
What happened?
So it was crazy. I just went, I have a concierge doctor, and it was during COVID, and I was looking at my blood work to brag about how high my testosterone levels are as a natural guy who doesn't do TRT. And I'm sitting in the parking lot of Crunch Fitness, and I'm looking at these numbers, and it was like 787. I'm like, "Oh, this is great." My guy's on the speakerphone. He's like, "Yeah, that's cool, bro, but your PSA is 12. You need to go to your doctor." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And I didn't really think much of it because we don't think about PSA.
And what is PSA?
Prostate-specific antigen. It's a marker in our blood that is kind of just a signal. It's not anything other than a signal saying, "Hey, go get this checked." Right? Go get this checked. We don't think about our prostate, and we should, especially as black men. Black men are more at risk, and if you have someone in your family, you are even more and more at risk. So you need to go get checked. Your PSA, or there's different markers now that some would agree that are better. But anyway, so I kicked the can down the road because of COVID and all that. And by the time I get to my doctor, I go in, and Mr. Social Media, I'm at my urologist, and he's getting ready to do the digital rectal exam that no man wants, finger up the ass, right? So I turned my phone on, and I put it on the stool, and I'm leaning over, looking down at my phone, like, you know, and I got the mask on, and you hear the doctor behind me. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I feel something in here. It's not normal, but I'm not worried about it." I was like, "Okay, if he ain't worried about it, I ain't worried
And
about it."
you're streaming this live.
I'm not live, but I recorded it, and it's
Recording
on my social media if you scroll back. So it goes from that stage to the next one. Okay, we're going to send you to get an MRI. So I go get an MRI, and they see what they refer to as a suspicious lesion, a dark spot. So then the next step is a biopsy. So I have my poor wife, who plays everything by the books, in there with my phone recording the biopsy, because my mind as a marketer is, I'm going to tell the world about this. I'm going to warn men. I'm going to be a walking public service announcement. That's another PSA. And I'm going to use my platform, right?
Yeah.
If I've got this platform, I'm going to use it. So I knew in advance that I would be having all this information to put in a documentary, which I am. So we do the biopsy, and I'm sitting in my office on a Zoom call with my doctor, and I have this recorded as well. He said, "We did find cancer." And I wasn't worried at all. I was like, "Okay, let's go. What's next? Let's go." So I approached it with the mindset of, this is just where I'm at in life, and I have to handle this. And I knew, because of all the research I did, it's not that big of a deal. And I say that with all due respect to anyone who's lost anyone from prostate cancer, because it's real. You know this.
Yes.
So, but my mindset for me was, I got this. It's no big deal for me. Okay. And I approached it with, I'm just going to handle this just like I do everything else. I'm just going to go all in 100%. So my intention was, in advance, I want to shoot the cover of Iron Man magazine after I go through all of my treatment. So I went through a whole bunch of different types of treatment. So after 5 weeks of radiation, every day, like a part-time job, I was going to TG and Vista and working out. No one knew I was getting radiated like 5 minutes before. So,
and what does radiation do to your body?
Man. So people will tell you, you're going to get sick, you're going to get tired, you're going to get this and that. I said, don't tell me what I'm going to get. Like, don't. The doctor, I said, bro, stop. Now these doctors have figured me out, because when I come in, there's no filter. I don't care. I tell you what, so these doctors knew that they weren't doing androgen deprivation therapy to me, because that's one of the treatments. They remove all of the testosterone from your body with something called Lupron. They chemically castrate you. Wow. I told my doctor, fuck you. I put my finger on his nose and said, no way, you're not doing this. It ain't happening. Nope. And he's like, okay, I won't say it again. So I threw that therapy out, and the radiation, it just obliterates any, what I refer to as rogue cells. I don't even like to use the word cancer. These rogue cells, this ray that goes in. I had external radiation, I had systemic radiation through a vein, and I had radiation seeds planted in me into my prostate. So they blasted me pretty good, but it's all gone. But after 5 weeks of laying on that table every single day, and when you go in there, you got to lay down, you got to pull your pants down and lay on this thing. It's not fun at all.
Right.
But I tried to make it fun. I tried to make it just, this is part of my life. I made friends with all the nurses, and I was bringing them food in and just made it a thing, because I didn't want to have the same vernacular that people were using. I'm battling. I never, ever used any of the language that people use in that space, ever, never, not once. Even to this day, when I said that, it grossed me out.
And so a lot of it is mindset. And people will say, yeah, but there's science, and it's cancer, and it's this thing, and it's that thing. And people don't realize that 80% of the success getting past something, going from a hospital bed to the stage and competing, or going from having rogue cells, right, to completely nothing. You're completely
I'm just like
completely
I had a
gone
cold.
now.
I'm done.
Like you had a cold.
Yeah.
And my dad did battle cancer. He never smoked or anything, but somehow he ended up getting lung cancer. It metastasized and moved into his kidney. Had to have a kidney out. And I remember he went to his doctor. We had two insurances. And the first doctor he went to said, well, there's nothing we can do. You just have a comfortable rest of your life, because there's nothing we can do. And then he went to another doctor, and this doctor said, you know what? You might as well fight. You might as well try. I'll go in there. Let's do surgery. He did the surgery. It was right when he was in the hospital when the 94 earthquake hit in Northridge. He was in Yorba Linda in a hospital, and he survived it. And he went through 10 years later, fast forward, we went to dinner, and we were sitting at the bar. My dad didn't drink, but he had a virgin daiquiri, right? Yeah. So it's like that blended drink. It was all red. And we're sitting there waiting for the beeper. The beeper goes off. I go, hey, Dad, our table's ready. Let's go. And I was walking in front of him, and I start walking to follow the hostess. And then I hear a lady behind me scream. And I was like, what's going on? And I turn around, and I see my dad laying on the floor with his daiquiri. His daiquiri had spilled on his shirt. So it actually looked like blood.
Oh, God.
And so people are screaming. They didn't know what was going on. And I just went to my dad. I said, Dad, what happened? He goes, I don't know. My legs just gave out. And, we rushed him to the hospital, and they did some blood work, and they looked at his PSA. And if I'm not getting this mistaken, I think his PSA was like 250 or something. And that is not good for prostate cancer. And he went through and he fought, and we moved him into my house for a while. We had a nurse coming, to take care of him. And eventually, the way those rogue cells work, they just kept spreading and spreading and spreading. And prostate cancer is something that is so preventable if you catch it early enough. And unfortunately, my dad did pass. But myself, ever since I was 40 or something, I'm getting checked for prostate and have to really pay attention to it, like you said, right? Because now that my dad had it, I have it, or my dad had it, I'm susceptible to it. So I just need to make those decisions. And so somebody who's watching this, a lot of it comes down to really focusing on our health and our fitness. Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways I could go with this. First of all, I'm so sorry about your father. That's it's sad. And that's why I'm being an advocate for testing. And I want people to know, because people don't think about it. You don't think about your prostate. You never do, because that's the beauty of the human body. You don't have to until you get a warning sign. So the first thing I would say is, if any man is peeing too frequently at night, if he has a hard time starting and stopping peeing, if he's rushing to, off of the side of the freeway and just peeing anywhere, those are your body giving you signals that there's at least inflammation in there. Yeah. So do something about it. Caffeine could cause inflammation in there. So it's not always negative, but it's your body saying, hey, bro, hey, listen, hey, I'm trying to get your attention. Don't ignore it.
That's right.
Right? Don't ignore it. So this whole prostate issue is, I could go a million different directions with it. And again, I want to be sensitive to anyone who's dealt with this, and please understand that my bravado isn't me projecting out to anybody else. It's just me simply saying how I approach this. For me, the mindset piece was vital, because I didn't want to have anyone else being sad in my life. I wanted them to see my kids and my wife. I needed to be strong, and I needed to be confident that I was going to be okay. And to your point, most people will be okay with prostate cancer. And mine had metastasized, and I went through some stuff, but I ended up being fine, and I'm okay. So there's hope for you if anyone's dealing with this. But other than that, man, I'm out here living my life, brother. I'm just living my life one day at a time. I don't think further than today. I don't really think further than this moment right here, honestly.
Yes. This is great. And it's been such a great moment. And in 2 weeks, there's going to be another moment that we're going to share together. I'm going to be on your stage. I'm going to be competing at the San Diego Championships for natural bodybuilding. And tell us a little bit about that. If anybody watching wants to go, wants to meet you, wants to come see me compete.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in and competing, because I think you're the guy who signed up. So you're probably going to win the whole thing, because I haven't heard of anyone else signing up yet. Typically, people wait till the end to sign up to these shows. But I've partnered with Denny Kakos of the INBA, and Denny's been around forever. I often refer to him as the leader of the natural bodybuilding movement. He's done so much for natural athletes, yourself, your wife included, and so many other people have a platform to showcase all of the hard work in the gym. And he had this title laying around, the San Diego. And back in the day, the San Diego was a big title for us to have. So the San Diego Championships was available, and I was at the Stand Up for Cancer event where you and I met. Yeah. And Denny said, hey, why don't we partner up and do a show? And I said, sure, let's go. And he, being a man of his word and such a great guy, right, Denny?
Yes, he's amazing.
And his wife and his daughter, such a great family. And he said, okay, I have this date. Are you available? Sure thing. He said, Clark, don't worry about anything. We'll handle all of the logistics. We just want your name and your passion. And that's what I'm giving him. So we got these beautiful posters. We've put them out in all the gyms. And we have Mission Hills High School as the location where people are going to come and compete. And it's going to be fun. I really appreciate the fact that you're putting in the effort to come in and do this, to show other people what's possible without any sort of performance-enhancing drugs. Because I really think that the natural movement's going to make a big comeback. Denny and the INBA and the PNBA is going to be on the forefront of it.
That's right.
And I love the activity of bodybuilding, and I want to be a part of what he's doing. So this will be the first of many shows, I hope, that we'll do together, again, to give people an opportunity to go out and show what they've done. And I want anyone who's listening or watching, if you've never done a show before, to come out and do it, because this is about people experiencing something. This is not for people who've been doing it forever. There's a place for everyone, the novice. And so, yeah, just take a chance. Just take a chance and come out and compete.
That's it. And we're going to put a link in there below. It's going to be April 25th.
Yep.
And it's an all-day event, right, mostly. Yep. And we'll put the link in there. And I want to ask you one more question. Okay. One more question that I ask all my guests. What advice would you give 21-year-old Clark that you've learned after all these years, your journey, your successes, your challenges? What advice would you give 21-year-old Clark?
Yeah. Be present. Don't get caught up in all the bullshit that's surrounding you and everybody's stuff. Just be present and take advantage of today. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will be glad and rejoice in it. Yes. And if we can all take the time to slow down, to rejoice in it, I probably at 21 would have enjoyed my time in the Marine Corps more and enjoyed all of the things that I looked past because I was so anxious to get the apartment, and I was so anxious to get the job, and I was so anxious. Right. I looked past the excitement of doing those things, and that's what I'm telling all these football players right now. With this team being a new team, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of uncertainty. I said, guys, let's slow down. Enjoy this practice. Look around you. Look at these other guys who are all doing this because they have a passion for it. If you look past it and you're not here and you're not present, one day you're going to look back and go, yeah, I played professional football and it was just like a flash in the pan. I totally forget about it. But if you remember the buddies and the actual process of going through it, good, bad, or indifferent, you're going to just take so much more away from your life, man, because tomorrow's not promised.
That's good. That's powerful. I'm coaching an athlete, professional soccer player, and he's in Greece playing right now. And, you know, there's a balance of him focused and, you know, he's got GPS on him and, you know, tracking his health and his recovery, and we're working on all that stuff together. And then there's the other side that he's in Greece. Like, he wants to enjoy his time there and say, yeah, I played, you know, pro soccer when I was in Greece, and getting to enjoy that process as well. Because a lot of times, that's one of my favorite scriptures, you know, and for me, it is today. Enjoy the journey, have the goals, know where you're going, have the drive, but enjoy today. And I have enjoyed today, my man. Thank you for coming out here.
Thank you for having me, man.
All right.
All right, brother.
I created the Full Potential Formula podcast to help you unleash your full potential. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll continue to create content to help get you there. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.